Hello, amazing humans. Welcome back to another episode of Harmony Inspired Health. Today, we're exploring a fascinating and practical topic: how cupping can be used as a therapeutic tool at home to support women's health, particularly for issues like hormonal balance, stress, fluid retention, and headaches. And I am very thrilled to welcome Dr. Tom Ingegno
Perfect.
to the podcast. I had to think about how to pronounce that. It is an Italian last name spelled a little bit differently, but I think I nailed it. Did I, Tom?
You did. It was great. It was absolutely perfect. I love the
Yay!
accent too.
Oh, thank you, thank you. The Aussie bogan accent. Yep, love it.
Yeah.
Dr. Tom has over 23 years of experience in integrative and functional medicine. He owns and operates Charm City Integrative Health and has been dubbed a pioneer in the future of medicine. Beyond his clinical work, Tom has taught at two prestigious schools for East Asian medicine. He is a published author and helped expand the scope of the practice of acupuncture with his role as chairman of the Maryland State Board of Acupuncture. Dr. Tom is the co host of the Irreverent Health podcast, and today he is here to demystify cupping therapy and share actionable ways you can use this ancient practice in your self care routine at home. And as an Ayurvedic practitioner, you know we love self care routines, as we call them dinacharya. So, welcome to the podcast, Tom.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I know we talked a little bit before we started. I'm super excited just given your background and everything to speak with you.
Yeah, so am I. As I mentioned, I've finished my master's in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture as well. So I'm really excited to um, call in some of your wisdom today, which will be really nice. Just before we get into the main part of the
Mhm.
episode, I do have two rapid inspiration questions that I like to ask my
Sure.
guests.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Sure. He's like, get them over and done with. Okay, the first
Yeah.
one. What's one unexpected or unconventional thing about you that most people don't know?
This shocked one of my new hires at the office the other day. But I competed at the national level in Tai Chi competitions, including push hands and form competitions.
Oh, wow.
You look at me and I don't look like I do martial arts, and certainly we can argue that Tai Chi is its own little niche thing. But the school I took it at it was really studying all the internal martial arts, and kind of a
Amazing.
weird little thing.
Amazing. Add that to the resume. I'm actually a Muay Thai fighter.
Yeah, see, that's
Don't
a
do
little bit
that.
more external, but yes, it's
Yeah. And if you could instantly master any skill or ability outside your expertise, what would it be and
uh,
why?
I you know I've been meditating since 1994, and I normally joke that I'm still practicing it because I don't have it right. After 6 years of consistent daily meditation, we're over 6 years now. Um, I wish I knew what mastery was like in that. Like that would be
Yeah.
the coolest thing for me.
Yeah. But I think that's why it's called a practice, right? Meditation
Yeah,
practice or
absolutely.
yoga practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's dive in. Thank you for those insights into who you are, besides all of those other wonderful things. But when did you become interested in acupuncture, and what initially sparked your interest in cupping therapy? And also, how has this journey evolved?
Yeah, yeah. So I was, I came from a family where it's like, work hard and, doctor, lawyer, business professional, I believe is how the Little Boxes song goes. But one of those things was like supposed to be my fate, if you will. And I thought in high school I was going to be an MD. I wanted to be an MD. I wanted to help people. And I got to college, and between some experiences with, and we don't have to get into politics here, but the American healthcare system is broken, and somehow that's a political thing. Um, and rather than actually fixing it, we just keep doubling down. So through a couple of series of events where like I got basically blown off by a doctor, where I sat in a waiting room for 2 hours and they told me the doctor wasn't even there yet. And just not feeling like they were ever, and we can talk about this from a functional medicine standpoint, never looking at the root cause, right? There was never a discussion about, hey, what do you do for physical activity? What's on your plate every day? It was, well, you need to lose 10 pounds, or are you working out? Or there was never specifics in the things that are fundamentally making us have the outcomes that we have, right? We have an obesity problem here. We have so many chronic diseases in this country that are really, they could be sidestepped if we changed our lifestyle. And Western medicine, at least as it's practiced here, doesn't do that. Now, my grandfather was a pharmacist, and I tell this story a lot because I literally blocked it out after he died, and it came back to me while I was in acupuncture school of all the weird things. So he was standing there counting out pills, and there used to be a tray where, like, the ones you're going to put back in the bottle have a thing that slides over back into the bottle, and then there's a tube that you slide the other ones off to give to the patient, you know. And he counted those out, and he looked at me, and I don't know if you guys have an equivalent of what we call a day laborer here, somebody who's maybe not here illegally, but somebody will pick them up in a pickup truck and pay them cash at the end of the day, and it's normally not much money. My grandfather counted out these pills for a day laborer that was coming in, and he goes, "Look, this guy has to take 3 of these a day for the rest of his life, and they're $5 a piece, and he's trying to raise a family." And we talked about me being Italian. I'm like 3 generations off the boat. So immigrants have a special place in my heart, to the point where my grandfather called them his people's people, the Latinos. Um, and he said, after he said, "Hey, you know how much this hurts his family?" He said, "There's got to be a better way. I'm looking for you to find it." Like, I remember his sneakers. I remember what pants he was wearing. I remember what the lab coat looked like, but I blocked it out. And then I was standing in the student write-up room for our clinical grand rounds, and it all came flooding back to me. And I went, "Oh shit, I'm where I'm supposed to be." Uh, um, but a Tai Chi course in my undergrad, a Chinese philosophy course in my undergrad, and then a rather weird event where my mom used to put on this auction for our high school, right? And she would get donations from the local stores in the neighborhood. There was a bookstore, and she had this, like, laundry basket full of books. And sitting on top when I came home from college was something called Opening the Dragon's Gate. And it was about the Dragon Gate sect of Taoism, and in there they talk about some real weird supernatural stuff. I don't know if I can buy that yet, but they introduced concepts of acupuncture, and wheels started turning because all these things kind of came together at once. My
Mhm.
junior year of college, during the Christmas intercession, I got a postcard in the mail from an acupuncture school that was literally 10 minutes down the road from my parents' house. I went to the open house, and I was signed up within 2 weeks. And we
Wow.
never looked back after that. I know you asked me a bunch of questions in there.
No,
Uh,
I
but yeah, go
love
ahead.
how like the universe was just giving you all of these signs of like this is
Yeah.
your dharmic path, like this is your purpose. And I think Eastern medicine, because it's got such a beautiful philosophical aspect to it, as well as the science and the spirituality, and it really encompasses all of what we are as human beings and spiritual souls and whatnot. So I think that when you're called to the practice, and when you're called as a practitioner in this modern world, it really, it is so strong, the signs and the signals, and often we ignore them for so long, and
hmm
then finally you just can't, you just land in it because it's just part of your dharma, your
Yeah,
purpose.
it's so much easier when you do that, right? When you're
Yeah,
not fighting you just kind of,
yeah,
oh, look, this is where I'm supposed to go, and this is fun, this is enjoyable, this is easy. Sometimes it's not easy, but it feels so satisfying,
yeah.
that, like, yes, this has to be it. But yeah, I mean, from there, I practiced in New York. I taught at a couple of schools, and then I decided to move down to Maryland, and I was doing okay down here, but I thought I could never have the impact that I wanted to with my current clinic. Even if I work 24/7, there's just not enough hours in the day. There's too many people in what Baltimore is, a relatively small city. So we launched Charm City Integrative Health in 2016, which added a lot of, like, physical type therapies, modalities that some people call biohacking or cutting edge. Like, I don't like the term biohacking because stateside it tends to imply how much can I curse here? I'm going to be offensive. But a white male douchebag with high net worth doing something that is really helpful to all living people, not just them, but it's kind of like this status symbol. Like, I drive this car and I do cold plunges every day or something like that. Is So I really started backing away from that term because I know what I look like, but that's not the person I am. But within that, we added all these services, figuring that we could help so many more people. If it's a 3-minute procedure, if we offer services that, a tech can go and press a start button on.
Mhm.
And after COVID, it just really took off. It just got, people were starting to realize that, like, yeah, you want to see your doctor, you want to exercise and do the right things, but you need multiple points of contact in your life with healthcare practitioners, and you need to treat your health like you do uh any other thing that you're trying to get good at. You have to practice it, you have to cultivate, you have to research it, you have to take ownership of it. And COVID really did that. The first people to come back into our office were medical doctors and nurses and from all the surrounding hospitals. And it was like this big change. They were dealing with the stress of, like, literally pronouncing tons of people dead every day. But within that, um, as the masks started to get lifted and people felt more comfortable, our practice blew up. And I realized then, once again, like, this place is rocking and we're not even scratching the surface of the population of Baltimore. And it became very clear. And I don't know if your schooling mentioned this concept. Certain things I had to pick up after school. 3.5 years to get several thousand years of information is a big ask. But this concept of Yangshen, which is like, going through these stages and evolving as you age, but staying healthy, having robust life as you age. And it was all lifestyle stuff. And a lot of
Mm.
these things were practiced, even though they're part and parcel of Chinese medicine, that were never done by the practitioner. Those were things that were done in the house, right?
Mm.
Qigong, breathing exercises, meditation, these cornerstone things that we've been talking about. But cupping, not even Chinese in origin, uh, but had been a part and parcel of Chinese medicine for thousands of years. In fact, Ge Hong, who's a really cool Taoist physician, he's got some other great, formulas and some interesting stories around him. But in 300 AD, he said, "Hey, I know everybody's doing cupping at home, but we really should, as practitioners, be doing this in the clinic because it has such clinical value." So whether it came from Egypt or Persia or Greece, we're not sure. The oldest textbook we have is the Ebers Papyrus in Egypt, but it dates older than acupuncture, and it spread all over the world. I mean, one of my favorite photos of it are, I think they're Nigerian goat herders, and they have like these water buffalo horns on their back. They're sitting there getting
Yeah, wow.
cupping in a very traditional way. So it's this shared history, and it plays off like real simple human physiology. Can we get more blood flow to an area and cause a healing effect?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's why I wrote the book. I think that caught me up on all those questions.
It certainly did. And it's so interesting that cupping was a tool that was used at home to
Yeah.
treat. And now it's sort of more so seen as a therapeutic tool that you go to a clinic for. So I love how
Yeah.
you're bringing it back into the home because it is so beautiful and such a lovely modality. I know my husband and my children absolutely love cupping,
Mhm.
which so do I, but they don't really do it to me. I've got to do it to myself. But with women's health specifically,
Yeah.
because I think women are like, well, when we think of cupping, we often think of like the suction cups and therefore bringing more blood flow to that muscular area of the body.
Mhm.
And we think of it more to do with helping muscle fatigue or muscle soreness or injuries.
Yeah.
But it can actually help so much more than that. And we know it can help with hormonal balance, stress relief, fluid
Mhm.
retention, headaches. Can you explain how cupping can support women's health?
Absolutely, absolutely, and you hit some key stuff there, right? We're talking about, function, right? And we would think, "Oh, we're menstruating, we don't wanna draw more blood to move." And in some cases, yes, we don't wanna do that, and when we're treating with acupuncture, we might be mindful of what points we're choosing to not move the blood too much. But if we take something as simple as cramping, for example, right? I mean, a very common complaint, for women, around their period, we have these points along the sacrum, the Liao points, the circular points, and we can do cupping along the sacrum, and it can help with the cramping, right? If we do cupping on the neck and shoulders for those tension headaches, occiput down to the shoulders, top of the traps. If it's a real tension headache, which sometimes happens, right? We say when the chi's not flowing smoothly, that's where we get pain. And sometimes, especially if women are experiencing heavy clotting or painful menses, we know that might be a sign of the liver not having that smooth flow of chi and blood. So we can put those on points on the neck and shoulders to smooth that out, soften those muscles, help with the headaches. But we can cover areas in the mid back, roughly where the liver is, like along the spine, where we know those are the back shoe points are for the liver. But this is something that's the expression in America is horseshoes and hand grenades. We don't have to be right on it. We can be nearby and still get points. So we can do this in a very general way, which also lends itself to home use, right? Now that we have suction cups and cups that we can put on with silicone, we've removed fire, we've removed glass. So one of the biggest concerns was burning a patient or burning ourselves doing the cupping. We've removed that. And we don't need to use glass, so we don't have to worry about breakage anymore either. So it kind of dovetailed between the technology and the understanding and the popularity of it, right? I mean, it's all over the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
So, people are more familiar with it, right? We lost that probably a few generations ago. But
Mm.
it's nice to see that we're kind of reclaiming these traditional things where there's actually clinical evidence, there's studies, there's good research. So it's nice to see that. Other things, we don't think about cupping on the abdomen, but we can put cups on the abdomen. Constipation is a common complaint with or diarrhea too
I
with
love
menstrual
cupping
cramps. Yeah.
on the abdomen actually,
Yeah.
and even bringing in like from an Ayurvedic perspective, because I know a lot of my listeners have a keen interest in Ayurveda, is when we are treating somebody, we often look at the dhatus, which are the tissues in the body, and often we need to treat the rakta dhatu, which is the blood circulation, or the rasa dhatu, which is the lymphatic system first, in order to get things flowing and moving. And so
Hmm.
cupping is amazing at doing this, like any stagnation in the body, especially the sliding cupping. So when you've got that
Hmm.
suction and you're sliding up and down the body, it's really supporting the circulation and that lymphatic system, so the Rakta and Rasa Dhatu. And as you mentioned, like cupping on the belly for things like constipation, that's often in Ayurvedic terms associated with a Vata imbalance. And so
Hmm.
we're really helping to move the stools basically around the intestines, which is the seat of vata as well. So it
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
love how all of these sciences, they come and they link together. And yeah, it's just beautiful that they can work so effectively, and something that we can do at home. So for those who are interested in incorporating cupping therapy at home, what are some common like issues like muscle pain, headaches, or stress that it can help alleviate for them? But we've sort of gone over that, but then
Hmm.
like they're probably thinking, okay, so what do I do? I go buy some suction cups. Where do I put them? How do I actually do it at
Yeah.
home myself?
Yeah, that's the book I wrote. I didn't write it at a scholarly level. The idea was to give people exactly if grandma was teaching you, what would she have told you, and get you up and running. So the whole book's 131 pages with photos.
Yeah.
We cover the different styles of cups that are available now. If you have a good Asian market near you, chances are in that health aisle, there's probably a cupping set sitting on the shelf there. But with the invent of online shopping, Amazon and every other place, you can easily get these. You guys are a little closer to Asia. You might even have more of a variety than we do over here stateside. Um, but the buy-in is pretty cheap. All of those sets, a decent set could be as much as 20 US. Um, and the areas, with some guidance, it's where you think it should go is where that cup probably should go. So like if somebody's coming in and they have shoulder pain, well, where are you feeling that? Okay, let's try those areas. Let's look for the most sore spots and get that. With certain safety things, like, I don't know if it's safe for women or not. We're going to say it's not, just because that are pregnant, I should say, because we don't have any data on that. It's weird to and unethical to experiment. So let's just say, okay, pump the brakes on pregnant women. Although I did see a discussion today where people were like, "Oh, I cut pregnant women all the time," and I'm like, "Well, that's your liability, not mine." I said in the book, no. Um, Open wounds, we probably don't want to put a cup over that. Deep vein thrombosis, these things that where there should be a red flag, let's not do that. But other than that, I remember buying a bunch of cupping sets when the kids were little, and they wouldn't let me do it on them, right? And I came home from school, from work one day, and the two of them, the younger one was still in diapers. She's just wearing a diaper, and she's got marks all over her body. Like they took every cup and put it everywhere they possibly could have. And it was pretty funny because, like, yeah, they had the marks. They're redheads. They're very fair skinned, but no negative side effects. I don't think anything was therapeutic, but it's still like to speak to the safety of it. So we give guidelines for different protocols, different conditions, but it is supposed to be intuitive in that function where, like, oh, I think this should go here, so probably like give that a try.
Mm. And your book is a very wonderful, easy read for the layperson, but also for practitioners alike. So I think, yeah, it is an amazing little book to have, even sitting in your clinic if you're a practitioner, just to flip through. And what about bringing this into another health modality? So got a lot of like healers, massage
Mhm.
therapists maybe listening. It's Would you recommend this as an alternative therapy that they can add
Yeah,
into their clinic? Yeah.
absolutely. So I've taught cupping at some massage schools.
Hmm.
And especially for them, it's such a physical job, right? And especially if they have a full book, and they're very busy. Cupping gives them gives their wrists, arms, shoulders, elbows a little bit of a break, right? If something's very tight, they can put those cups on and come back to it later, right?
Yeah.
Or, oh, we want to do this because this might be a little stronger and it's going to save their bodies. It is something that, you know, uh, we have this kind of turf war going on in the US with dry needling, where everyone is, doing some form of acupuncture and calling it dry needling. And they're just not getting the results. So it's kind of silly in my head. Like, don't, I can rebrand something too. If I'm bad at it, it's not gonna, but cupping, this one is not a turf war. This came out of people's households. you know
Mm.
this 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 should return back to them, especially if we can do it safer, especially if it's cost effective for people, especially if it's very easy for them. and
Yeah.
and that's why I started with this, right? Like, I'd love to talk more about moxibustion, which was traditionally folk medicine too, and kind of went the way of the dodo when practitioners got their hands on needles. But that's so much older than acupuncture as well, and all our acupuncture theory comes from that. And I do think things like moxa boxes, and oh god, that's a whole different story, and I'm probably opening up a can of worms. I know this is a half an hour show, but these technologies, these methods, should be practiced more regularly than they are, because there is clinical value. There are modern studies.
Mm.
Patients want it. Practitioners have experience with it, and that is like the three circles of the Venn diagram. That's evidence-based medicine.
Mm. And I've noticed cupping is really supportive for emotional well-being. Like I feel like my
Yeah.
clients they just get a release after it. It's just like, oh, I think because we are moving from an Ayurvedic perspective, the prana, or from the TCM perspective, the chi, that's our life
Yeah.
force
Yeah.
energy, right? And so we feel like just so much more vitalized and clearer and just emotionally more adaptive. And like that's just my experience. But I would love for you to speak on this. Like, is
Yeah.
there science or
Yeah,
evidence with that?
we know when we do a lot of these body work modalities, and I'll put cupping in that as well,
Yeah.
that one of the major things we're playing with is, and I'll speak a little bit more Western here, is the autonomic nervous system, fight or flight versus rest and digest. Well, if you're awake and you're living in the modern world, chances are you're stuck in fight or flight, right? And that's going to cause that stagnation, right? Why things aren't moving? Why? Because I'm tense. And it could be an emotional source. It could be a very physical source. It could be my boss is a jerk, and I'm grinding and I'm just burning myself out. Uh, but when we put these cups on, we increase circulation. And the cool thing about our autonomic nervous system is when we do one of those functions, right? We do this with pranayama too. We can do this with pranayama, which is kind of cool. But when we do one of those functions, like if we slow down our breathing, especially the exhale, our body thinks, oh, we must be relaxed. We're breathing slow. So all of those other functions of that rest and digest state start kicking in. So then we get more systemic blood flow. Our neurotransmitters start to normalize, our hormones start to normalize. Of course, we're going to have that emotional breakthrough during that time. Why? I let my guard down. I allowed myself to process that emotion. Now, on the other hand, if we do like breath of fire, if we want more energy, right? Oh, I'm breathing faster. I'm breathing harder. Oh, I must be in fight or flight. So our body, we wake up a little bit, right? We go, oh, more energy. I got to get through this. So we can play with this autonomic nervous system, which is funny because autonomic means we're not in control of it. But they knew this thousands of years ago. And to see it come around where like everyone's a breathwork coach now, or everyone is like, yeah, oh, let me tell you about this dopamine detox I did. And you're like, yeah, that's there's at least a handful of cultures that knew this for thousands of years, but it's great to see that it's making a resurgence, that people are starting to tune back into their bodies, and in doing so they're picking up those things that we left behind that were really valuable.
Right, absolutely. And so for our listeners who are going thinking, okay, I need to get me some cups and I need to start this ASAP,
Yeah.
but maybe are a little bit unsure of where to start, how to start, would you recommend they go and get a treatment with a practitioner first and then go buy themselves some cups, or what's your
you,
advice?
you know it depends on your comfort level. If you're that DIYer, if you're familiar with some kind of body work, if you kind of are comfortable, I think my book is a good enough resource to kind of go, okay, let's read the book and then order cups, and then I'll have those cups the next day or a day or two, depending on what you get from Amazon. And start playing with it. You know, if you have something a little bit more severe, a lot of people that have read the book have told me that, oh my God, after this car accident, I got cupping from my physical therapist, my acupuncturist, my massage therapist, and it changed my life. I didn't know I could do it at home, and yeah, there's going to be some limitations to what you can do to yourself, and there's going to be some limitations to the strength and the skill in the areas that are chosen. But given its safety and given its potential for help, I think it's absolutely imperative that people do these things at home and start to incorporate them, because you read the book, you buy the cups, those cups will last you a lifetime if you take care of them. And now you have that knowledge and you can share it with your friends and your family. And there's so many free resources too, that like I'm out here trying to sell a book, but like, hey, YouTube's got some good videos. Yeah, I can't pretend like that doesn't exist too. I want people using this. I want these things to be returned back. I want to rehumanize us, kind of, if that makes any
Mm,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. Did you have an epic experience with cupping? Is that what like sort of really motivated you to write the book, or was it more the experience you saw with your clients when using it?
It was a combination of things, right? I was really sitting there trying to go, what's the big impact move? How am I going to affect people that aren't able to get into my clinic, whether it's distance wise, whether it's financial, whether it's and how do we really democratize our healthcare? And that's sharing knowledge. And it's what's safe, what's effective, what can be done with minimal training. Like, these are all things that I was kind of weighing. And cupping was first and foremost on that list. There's other things, but rather than teach a little segment of here's what a moxa box is, as opposed to direct moxa, or as opposed to like all these other types of moxa that we can do as practitioners, right? Yeah, moxa box. Yeah, definitely at home, but all these other things, I don't want to be the guy that like somebody goes, well, I read that you said this, so then I tried this and then I hurt myself. I didn't want to do that. And cupping seemed to be on that safe side of like, how bad can someone mess this up?
Mm,
Was really what was one other determining factor. And I'm not calling other people stupid. It's just like, if you don't have a degree in it, you want to make sure you know what you're doing before you go. And cupping is, yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, you got a really weird hickey, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I think when you remove the fire and the suction cups, because like you can get blisters if they're
Yeah, yeah.
stuck too hard,
Too
left on too
hot.
long, the
Yeah.
heat. But the ones that you're referring to that people can buy for home, like the suction cups, and especially the like plastic ones, not even the glass ones,
Yeah.
are very, very safe. So, what is your? Tell us a little bit more about your book. What is it called? Where can people find your book and start their cupping experience?
Yeah, so it's literally called the cupping book. It's oh sorry, I'm in the reverse camera there. The cupping book. I tried to make it as direct as possible. I didn't think you could mess up that title there. Thecuppingbook.com is a website if you want to read a little bit of excerpts and some feedback on the book. But it's available at every online book retailer. My website is charmcityintegrative.com. You can reach out and ask us questions there, even if you're not in Baltimore. But you can find out everything we have going on in the clinic, online, articles we've been in, interviews I've had, other projects that we're working on right now. Because my goal here after it'll be 24 years in a couple of months, is to share what I know as much as I can with anybody that'll listen.
Mm. And so, what topics do you cover on your podcast? Because you also have a podcast.
Yeah. So it's called Irreverent Health. Maybe I'm tuning into that frequency because I'm having a little bit of Japanese whiskey while we're talking. But
Love that.
within that, we're we do a wide array of stuff. So my co-host Matt Hampton, he's heavy in the tech sector. He builds websites, he does
Oh,
digital advertising, app development, all these really cool stuff with an amazing background, if you can believe that. He's somewhat of a savant. And we met in a business group and we just started having these weird conversations about health. And people started listening. And then, like every other white middle-aged male during COVID, we decided to start a podcast, and we picked topics for everything. Right now, we're trying to get an expert on aliens in because
wow.
the U.S. government decided to just say, hey, by the way, yeah, we have alien bodies, we have alien technology, and there's a whole bunch of different types of aliens that live in the ocean. And that just,
Wow.
like because America's not on fire enough, they're like, yeah, let's throw aliens into the mix. But within that, it became such an interesting thing to me, as almost like a well, why aren't they doing anything then? Why they're just leaving us? Like if they're an advanced civilization, could they they could help us, right? Like they could fix this. But we cover a lot of AI and the intersection of AI and health. We had recently the guy who discovered the part of the brain that's associated with circadian rhythms, who did a whole talk on blue light. He wrote a book called The Light Doctor, which was absolutely a brilliant book, really approachable. And here's all the effects of, sitting under a ring light that's pumping out this high intensity blue light, especially, the sun's already set here. I'm doomed. But within that, these topics where health and tech intersect, we talk a lot about psychedelics because that's been such a hot button issue for 2 decades here. But all these weird things that like you just don't get to talk about, and they're just things that like really are musings for us, interesting things that we like, you know.
Mm. Amazing. I'll have to head over and have a listen.
Thank you. You'll be
Thank
the
you.
one.
Woo! First last night. No, just joking. Um, Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your wisdom. I think that you would have really inspired a lot of people out there to go and start their cupping journey. And I will put your links in the show notes and your cupping book link as well. So you can go and purchase that. Thank you so much.
Oh, Harmony, thank you. This was delightful. I really had a great time.